Dr. Jamil is a medical professional who obtained an MBBS degree from the University of Punjab in 1999 and worked as a specialty registrar at Hinchingbrooke Hospital in the United Kingdom in 2015. He later worked as a clinical fellow at Hinchingbrooke Hospital until August 2021, after which he joined Frimley Park Hospital. The allegation against him is that he worked locum shifts at other hospitals while on sick leave or emergency special leave from Hinchingbrooke Hospital, and that he knew it was against the rules and acted dishonestly. The tribunal received evidence from several witnesses and documents related to the case of Dr. Jamil, including witness statements from Dr. Jamil, Mr. C, Ms. D, Ms. A, and Mr. E, as well as scanned pages from Dr. Jamil's passport, a sick note, an anonymous letter of complaint, and correspondence between HR and Dr. Jamil regarding sick leave. The witnesses who provided oral evidence at the hearing were Ms. A, Dr. B, and Dr. Jamil himself. Additionally, the tribunal considered several documents, including a sickness, absence and attendance policy, archive and revised rota Excel screenshots, a locum agency booking system screenshot, Dr. Jamil's annual leave rota, and verified testimonials on behalf of Dr. Jamil. The tribunal determined that Dr. Jamil had undertaken locum work at Homerton University Hospital while on sick leave or emergency special leave, on several dates including April and May 2021. Dr. Jamil admitted to knowing that he should not have undertaken this work while on leave, and the tribunal found that his actions were dishonest. The tribunal has to decide whether Dr. Jamil's fitness to practice is impaired by reason of misconduct. The GMC, through the counsel, submitted that Dr. Jamil's fitness to practice is impaired by reason of misconduct, citing several paragraphs from Good Medical Practice 2013 as relevant to the allegations. The GMC also referred the tribunal to the overarching objective as set out in the Medical Act 1983. The counsel stated that Dr. Jamil's actions were not a single isolated omission or a single error in judgment, but rather a clear example of serious misconduct. The tribunal considered all the evidence received during the fact stage of the hearing, both oral and documentary, and Dr. Jamil gave evidence at the impairment stage of the proceedings. The tribunal also received a bundle containing a certificate of completion for a probity and ethics course that Dr. Jamil undertook in July 2021 and some further reflections from Dr. Jamil. The submission made by counsel on behalf of Dr. Jamil to the MPT stated that Dr. Jamil had admitted to acting dishonestly by working 5 shifts at Homerton University Hospital while on sick leave from Hinchingbrooke Hospital. The counsel acknowledged that Dr. Jamil had made a mistake and acted dishonestly, but pointed out that this was a short episode that occurred between the end of April 2021 and the beginning of May 2021. She highlighted that Dr. Jamil had made an early admission of his wrongdoing within a matter of days of completing the locum shifts at Homerton University Hospital. The counsel further submitted that Dr. Jamil did not double book himself and that he had not worked at Hinchingbrooke Hospital on the days when he was working as a locum at Homerton University Hospital. She pointed out that there was no evidence to indicate that Dr. Jamil had booked the locum shift on the 3rd of May 2021, as the booking date was the 13th of April 2021, before he commenced his sick leave. The defense stated that Dr. Jamil had initially wanted to return to work as soon as possible, and not use the full period as sick leave. She also highlighted that Dr. Jamil had quickly rectified the issue upon his return to work, offering to pay back the shifts by working unpaid shifts, which demonstrated an early recognition that he had done wrong and that he wanted to fix this. The counsel further added that Dr. Jamil had attended an ethics course in July 2021 soon after the investigation had commenced, which enabled him to understand where he went wrong and how he must improve. She reminded the tribunal of the appeal case of General Medical Council versus Chowdhury, in which the judge stated that dishonesty is not necessarily a monolithic concept and that a person can be dishonest just on one occasion. She submitted that given Dr. Jamil's admissions, humility, willingness to confront the issues, improve and pay back the shifts, the tribunal could conclude that this conduct is capable of being remedied. The MPT was reminded that at this stage of proceedings, there is no burden or standard of proof and the decision of impairment is a matter for the tribunal's judgment alone. The tribunal followed a 2-stage process, firstly to decide whether the facts amounted to serious professional misconduct and secondly whether the doctor's fitness is impaired as a result. The tribunal considered the relevant parts of good medical practice, the 3 limbs of the overarching objective of the GMC, and the guidance provided by Dame Janet Smith. The tribunal noted that a finding of impairment did not necessarily follow upon a finding of dishonesty but considered it unusual for dishonesty not to impair fitness to practice. The tribunal had regard to the principle set out by Sales J. in Young v. GMC, where misconduct consists of violating a fundamental rule of the professional relationship between medical practitioner and patient and thereby undermining public confidence in the medical profession. The tribunal considered each incident of dishonesty separately and decided whether it amounted to serious professional misconduct. The tribunal noted that for a finding of misconduct to be made, the conduct had to be so serious that fellow practitioners would describe it as deplorable. The tribunal accepted that Dr. Jamil was genuinely ill, but he still worked locum shifts at Hinchingbrooke Hospital and Homerton Hospital while on sick leave, accepting payment for these shifts. Dr. Jamil did not inform Homerton Hospital that he was on sick leave, and he continued to work a fifth locum shift during the period of his sick leave. The tribunal considered these instances of dishonesty to be serious professional misconduct. The tribunal also noted that Dr. Jamil prioritized financial gain over his commitment to the profession, honesty, and integrity. The tribunal found that Dr. Jamil had breached paragraphs 1, 65, and 68 of GMP. Dr. Jamil admitted that he acted dishonestly and brought the medical profession into disrepute, breaching the fundamental tenets of the medical profession. The tribunal considered whether Dr. Jamil's fitness to practice was impaired as a result of his misconduct. The tribunal found that Dr. Jamil's misconduct was serious, but was remediable, and he displayed insight by admitting his wrongdoing, accepting that he should have dealt with things differently, and apologizing at an early stage to his colleagues. The tribunal also noted that Dr. Jamil attended an ethics course, repaid the shifts before leaving the trust, and took steps to rectify his wrongdoing. The tribunal concluded that Dr. Jamil had made sufficient changes and remediation, and there was no risk of repetition. Dr. Jamil's fitness to practice was found to be currently impaired for the reputation of the profession. The counsel, on behalf of the GMC, submitted that a period of suspension would be the appropriate sanction in the case of Dr. Jamil, as his conduct involved dishonesty and was a serious breach of good medical practice. She referred to the sanctions guidance and stated that the two latter limbs of the overarching objective had been engaged, and that the reputation of the profession as a whole was more important than the interests of any individual doctor. She acknowledged that Dr. Jamil had demonstrated insight and expressed remorse, as well as demonstrated remediation, but submitted that a sanction was still relevant as his misconduct was a series of separate instances. She stated that it would not be appropriate to take no action in this case, and that there were no exceptional circumstances that would justify taking no action. She submitted that the appropriate sanction in this case was one of suspension, as Dr. Jamil's conduct amounted to a serious breach of GMP and only suspension would uphold public confidence in the medical profession and promote proper standards of conduct. The counsel, representing Dr. Jamil, argued that the tribunal should consider the mitigating factors, including the difficult circumstances Dr. Jamil was experiencing at the time of the misconduct and his lack of personal financial gain. She emphasized that Dr. Jamil had no previous issues with impairment and his misconduct was out of character and only lasted for a short period of time. She pointed out that Dr. Jamil had shown remorse and taken a probity and ethics course, and that he had received positive testimonials regarding his integrity. She argued that the exceptional circumstances justified taking no action, but if a sanction was imposed, it should be short-term and proportionate to the seriousness of the case. She urged the tribunal to consider the adverse impact of suspension on Dr. Jamil's ability to provide for his family and the public interest in not depriving the public of good and caring doctors. She also stated that a review would not be necessary if a suspension were imposed.
The tribunal considered several factors when deciding on the appropriate sanction for Dr. Jamil. It had regard to the statutory overarching objective, which includes the public interest in protecting patients, maintaining confidence in the profession, and upholding proper standards of conduct and behavior. The tribunal also considered the least restrictive sanction first and then the other sanctions in ascending order. In addition, it considered the aggravating and mitigating factors in the case, including Dr. Jamil's insight, early admissions, positive testimonials, and evidence of remediation. There were no aggravating factors identified, but several mitigating factors were identified, including Dr. Jamil's difficult personal circumstances, his acceptance of responsibility, and his attempts at remediation. The tribunal's options for sanctions were to take no action, impose conditions on Dr. Jamil's registration, suspend his registration, or erase his name from the register. The tribunal determined that taking no action was not appropriate, that conditions would not be proportionate or workable, and that erasure was not necessary or proportionate. The tribunal ultimately decided to suspend Dr. Jamil's registration and decided that a short duration of 3 months is enough to mark the overarching objective. The tribunal also decided that a review is not necessary in this case.